The darkness swallowed the tent, and the cold wind crept through its torn openings like ghosts, wrapping around the sleeping children like felled trees. Hassan sat in the corner of the tent, staring at the empty pot that had not touched fire for 2 days. Her hand trembled as she gently patted the belly of her youngest daughter, Sarah, who slept gasping through her hungry breaths. Suddenly, the sound of shelling erupted outside. The ground shook as if screaming alongside the people, and a boy's voice cried out, "Mama! Mama!" Hassan's heart raced. She slipped out of the tent and saw smoke rising from one end of the camp. Bodies were scattered, and some children ran barefoot, searching for their families among the rubble. A woman stood screaming, clutching a blood-stained piece of cloth, the remains of a small garment. Hassan couldn't bear the sight. She tightened her headscarf and returned to her tent, where her 3 children slept on empty stomachs. She sat beside her eldest son, Yusuf, and tried to wake him gently. He stirred slightly and opened his tired eyes. "Mama, is breakfast ready?" he asked in a faint voice. She couldn't respond. She glanced at the empty pot, then at her son, and whispered with a trembling voice, "God willing, my son. Be patient." This Ramadan was harsher than she had imagined. Even the dates she used to share with her neighbors were gone, and drinking water had become a distant dream. She remembered last Ramadan, when her home was full of life, when her husband, Hassan, would laugh and play with the children as they prepared food. Now, Hassan was beneath the earth, leaving behind only a photograph in the corner of the tent. She heard a call from outside. It was her neighbor, Khalil, carrying a dry piece of bread and a cup of water. She approached Hassan and said in a choked voice, "This is all I could find. Divide it among them." Hassan looked at her trembling hand, feeling as though she held a treasure more precious than gold. She entered the tent, woke the children gently, and divided the bread into small pieces, distributing the water drop by drop. Yusuf watched her with sadness, then suddenly said, "Mama, you haven't eaten anything." She shook her head with a forced smile. "I'm full, my son. I just want to see you happy." But Yusuf didn't believe her. He noticed her trembling hands, her dry lips, and her silent tears. In that moment, he realized he had become a man despite his young age. He slipped out of the tent, heading toward the rubble in search of anything edible. He paid no heed to the ongoing shelling. His mind repeated one thing: "I must find food for my mother and siblings." In the corner of a destroyed house, Yusuf spotted a small bag thrown among the stones. He ran to it cautiously, opened it, and found a few lentils and a small piece of bread. Before he could react, a sharp voice called his name. He turned to see Hassan rushing toward him, her eyes shining with fear. "Yusuf, come back immediately, it's dangerous," she shouted, trying to reach him. But the sound of the shell overtook her. A massive explosion tore through the area, and Yusuf fell amid the dust, the bread and lentils scattering from his hands. Hassan rushed to him, pulling his small body into her arms. She found his face covered in blood, but he was still breathing. She gripped his hand tightly and whispered, "Don't leave me, my son." Yusuf smiled through the pain, trying to lift his weak hand to touch his mother's face. "I found us some food, Mama. We'll break our fast today." Then he closed his eyes.